Tonight on Q2, kicking cancer.
I took one look at that, and that really hit close to home.
A Laurel football player is breaking records on the field, but off it,
a compliment to not only Owen, but his family.
He's putting his mark on a much bigger cause. Plus,
I'm Alina Howder. 10% of a Bighorn Sheep herd in Wyoming have died. We'll tell you why coming up.
And a spooktacular event. A Billings haunted house will have you screaming, but it's all for a good cause.
I think we had, 800 people through, and it was, it's our best haunted house we've ever done.
The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this Monday. I'm Russ Riesinger. Well, Montanans are seeing their energy bills climb along with just about everything else. Northwestern Energy just implemented a rate increase at the start of the month that you're sure to notice. Electric went up $11.19 for the average customer, while gas increased by 48 cents. And now Montana Dakota Utilities is expected to do the same on November 1st. Our Kelsey Marison has more on those rising prices and also help that may be available if needed.
Gas price increases aren't isolated at the pump. Energy rates are going up nationwide. You've likely already seen your bill go up, but there might be a way to fight back.
Those prices on the open market have probably almost tripled in the last 18 months.
Public Service Commission Representative Gary Duncan has watched America's energy crisis unfold right before his eyes. Montana's Northwestern Energy customers have already seen a rate hike this year, and it may get worse.
But on the electric side, particularly Northwestern customers, it's not going to go down.
But Duncan says that utility companies don't make any profit off of these increases. They simply offset rising costs, and MDU is getting ready to request another increase.
The MDU is going to file your rate case, electric, on November 1st. That's what they've told us. They are planning on filing.
But there are ways to combat these changes. DPHHS offers a low-income housing energy assistance program where participants receive a discounted energy rate from Northwestern Energy. Applications just opened on October 1st.
We always encourage, folks to apply. We have the program set up so that we don't have to turn people away. With inflation and the other costs, just of groceries and everything else that has increased, every little bit helps.
For those that want their voices heard, anyone can file comments with the Public Service Commission, and all comments are accepted. But the PSC says companies aren't just targeting you.
It is the same thing that you're seeing for natural gas prices that you're using in your home. It's definitely nationwide, it's definitely global.
A global problem that many need to be solved soon. In Billings, Kelsey Marison, MTN News.
With the midterm election quickly approaching, both Democrats and Republicans are trying to get their side out to vote.
Republicans are doubling down on their MAGA trickle-down economics that benefits the very wealthy, failed the country before, and will fail it again if they win.
President Biden delivered what he called his closing argument today as Republicans are gaining ground in the battle for control of Congress. However, the time to turn the tide running out as millions have cast their ballots already, with early voting underway in several states, including Texas, Florida, and here in Montana. Republicans have been able to capitalize on a weakening economy to surge in the latest polls.
All the overspending in Washington, they have created the worst inflation since Jimmy Carter was president.
Meanwhile, CBS News has obtained an intelligence assessment saying China is likely seeking to influence several races. This comes amid national security concerns about threats to operations and elections officials. CBS's Mark Strassman reports tonight on accusations of voter intimidation in battleground states.
Armed vigilantes dressed in tactical gear patrol ballot drop boxes near Phoenix. Disruptive, even intimidating. Multiple voters have filed formal complaints. In this home stretch
Buenas tardes.
for 2022's midterm elections, Arizona may be America's hotbed for election conspiracy theorists.
We're going to take a sledgehammer to these damn electronic voting machines.
Republican Carrie Lake, running for governor here, pushes suspicions about shadowy threats to voter integrity without a shred of proof. Mark Fincham, Arizona's Republican Secretary of State candidate, tweeted, "Watch all drop boxes, period. Save the Republic.
Threats to harass you online, but also threats to physically harm you.
Stephen Richer is the Maricopa County Recorder in charge of voter registration and in this room counting early voting. This Republican's appalled by his own party's election deniers.
It's especially frustrating when people knowingly do it to satisfy a selfish desire for political gain or for pecuniary gain.
Early voters now crowd polls across America. Over the weekend, 80,000 Georgians voted in a single day. Compared to the same day 4 years ago, an increase of 159%. Other states like North Carolina and Florida report similar surges for many reasons, including the fight to control the U.S. Senate. These 10 states featured dogfights for Senate seats. One of them, Pennsylvania. CBS News has learned behind the scenes, former President Trump has encouraged state lawmakers to repeal a law that allows all voters to mail in ballots.
The sheriff here has been looking into reports of early voters being harassed and just referred 2 cases to prosecutors for criminal charges. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Phoenix.
A Montana newspaper company made up of 13 newspapers has been sold to a company in Minnesota. The Adams Publishing Group, based in Coon Rapids, Minnesota, will purchase Yellowstone Newspapers, which started with the Miles City Star back in 1957. That deal also includes the Laurel Outlook, the Bighorn County News, the Carbon County News, and the Livingston Enterprise. Adams already owns newspapers in Bozeman and Belgrade. According to Adams' website, the 2 companies reached an agreement last Friday, and the sale is expected to be finalized on November 1st.
3 things for us to take a look at from today. First off, the warmest temperatures, mainly in the 40s and 50s across the region. 52 ended up being the warmest reading at the Billings Airport and one of the warmer across the state. Only 38 up in Cut Bank today and 39 Wolf Point. 34 degrees in Williston, North Dakota. But we also saw areas where we had the snow that started to come together as well. And a few random reports from across the state show anything from a couple of inches all the way up to about a foot in accumulation. Even more in some of the high elevations around, especially areas into the ski resorts. We saw a foot or more of new snow and strong wind gusts, 45 plus miles per hour. More wind on the way. We'll talk about that with the forecast coming up.
Wyoming Game and Fish are monitoring a disease showing up in bighorn sheep in northern Wyoming. That disease is now responsible for killing off 10% of the Devil's Canyon herd. Arlena Howder has more.
About 75 miles south of Billings, 10% of the Devil's Canyon bighorn sheep herd have been wiped out by a strain of bacteria. Wyoming Game and Fish are using GPS tracking collars to monitor the situation in hopes that no other sheep perish.
Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area is home to all sorts of wildlife, and bighorn sheep are no exception.
Sheep are a really iconic species and certainly something that everybody enjoys seeing, and so it's really hard and difficult for everybody, including us, to see that many dead.
It was on October 15th when Corey Class with Wyoming Game and Fish was notified that folks were finding dead sheep in the Bighorn Mountains.
I think we found 19 that day that were dead.
Since then, that number has doubled to 37 dead sheep out of a herd of 300. Game and Fish sent samples from the dead sheep to their lab in Laramie and received results a week later.
It was Mannheimia hemolytica, which is a fancy way of saying something that causes pneumonia very fast and kills sheep relatively quickly.
Game and Fish removed the carcasses from the area to prevent any potential spread of the disease. They also removed any sheep that exhibited symptoms.
We had quite a few collars out there, GPS collars on sheep. That's really good news. It'll help us monitor this situation as it moves forward.
And as of Monday, there have been no new reports on sheep fatalities from the Devil's Canyon bighorn sheep herd.
We're hoping that we've seen the worst of it and that we can move through this with not a ton more loss.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
From ghosts to goblins, spooky season is here with Halloween quickly approaching. Now there's several events for everyone over the next several days, including a huge charity haunted house at Oscars Park. Haley Monaco tells us the scares you can expect at the Scaredy Haunted House.
Halloween is 1 week away, and to get in spirit, I'm here at Oscars Park to learn more about the 4th annual Scaredy Haunted House, where you'll be filled with fright, all while giving back to local charities.
Even in the daylight, the Scaredy Haunted House and actors are spooky. But at night,
A lot of blood, a lot of guts, a lot of gore. This might be the scariest haunted house I've ever been a part of, too, as far even going through.
Sean O'Daniel loves scaring people and donating to local charities. Thus, Scaredy was born. 100% of proceeds raised will go to 4 different Billings organizations.
So we're on pace to probably double what last year was, and last year was around $30,000.
O'Daniel wants every year to be bigger and better. This year's theme is Apocalypse, taking visitors on a roughly 15-minute journey through the historic Oscars Park.
I don't know one group that didn't come out of it that didn't get scared out of their mind.
You'll have 4 more days to check out the scares, the 27th through 30th. But they have plans to make the 30th even more intense and only allowing 18 and over.
We have waivers already, but we might have to make a new waiver for the Sunday one.
And O'Daniel has big plans for this Scaredy Haunted House in the future, wanting to have it run all October, meaning even more money raised. But, fair warning, no one, not even the organizer, is safe at this haunted house. In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
The Scaredy Haunted House is far from the only event in town. As we lead up to Halloween, the always popular Moss Mansion is holding its annual Haunted Moss event from the 27th through the 31st. Haunted Hallows at Two Moon Park is Friday the 28th. Grandpa's Farm has its Haunted Maze the 28th and the 29th. There's also a new event in town this year, the Movement Montana Halloween Carnival and Haunted House from the 28th through the 31st. And lastly, a favorite for all kids, Boo at the Zoo. That's on Saturday, the 29th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Well, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, the best of the best. We'll break down the top 5 game changers from another exciting weekend of high school football. But first,
I'm Casey Conlon. Coming up, we'll introduce you to Laurel's new secret weapon, both on the football field and in the community as a whole.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this.